so we're getting into the decision meeting now. And the most important thing that you need to realize is you have to have started with the right foundation. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you've gone through the pipeline and you've ended up at the decision meeting, and hopefully in that process of going through the short presentation and the business presentation and maybe one or two follow-ups that you've done prior to the decision meeting, you've gotten an understanding of what it is that the prospect is looking for. And this is the single most important thing for me in the decision meeting, is understanding what's in it for the prospect. You see, for a lot of people, what they do is they present the opportunity, they present the product, but they never put themselves into the position where they ask what the prospect is looking to get out of Zinzino. And so if you are going into the decision meeting and you haven't yet figured out what is the why is this person looking at the business? Why are they meeting with you for a follow-up? Why are they going through the processing? If you don't have that understanding, it's going to be very hard to get to a point where you close the prospect effectively. And so there's a great saying here: you can't close a door that hasn't been opened. And the door that we need to open here is that essentially we need to be able to find out what it is that the prospect is looking for. So if you've done that effectively in the beginning stages, then you know what it is that you're going through in the process. And so your communication now in terms of helping funnel the prospect into making a decision is based on what it is that they're looking to get out of it. If you haven't done it up until this point, you're going to need to make sure that you start off the decision meeting conversation with this inquiry. What is it that the prospect is looking for? What is their why? You see, the bigger the why of the prospect, the smaller the objections and the excuses that they come up with. So when you have a good understanding and you've built that scenario of exactly what's in it for the prospect, why they're wanting to get started with Zinzino, why they're looking at creating another stream of income, whatever it may be, however you've worked with them, and if you've gone through the Express Start, you'll see there's a list of things that are potential motivators for people to build the business. This will give you a great starting point to be able to reflect back to if you've already done this in the beginning parts of the pipeline, or for you to be able to lay the foundation moving forward in the decision meeting for them to be able to make the decision. Now, friends, remember that you can't close a door that hasn't been opened. This is a very important door that we need to open, and we need to make sure going into the decision meeting that you set your prospect up to know why they're looking at this. You've got a good understanding of why they're wanting to do this, and what you're doing is you're connecting those 2 points. You're taking why they want to get involved, why they're looking to be involved, and putting it into a good, seamless understanding of why this is the right vehicle for them. So that's our starting point when we get going with the decision meeting. Okay, so the second thing that we want to do is we want to get good at conquering the close. Now, here's the challenge with most people going into the decision meeting as the person showing the plan or doing the following up. They never really ask the question, are you ready to get started? And this is my starting point. Now, as I mentioned, with point number 1, we need to know why they're doing this. If you've got that established already, you can pretty much start the decision meeting by starting with that phrase of, are you ready to get started yet? Because what that'll do is it'll give you the opportunity to hear where their mind is. Now, when we've gone through the process of building through why it is that they want to build the business, why they want to get started with Zinzino, we started to create that why in the decision meeting. It may need, maybe 1 or 2 other steps in between to get to the decision meeting, because they've still got to allow that to kind of boil down and get to the fundamentals of why it is they're starting. But when you ask the question, when you actually have the boldness to say, are you ready to get started? It's going to give you one of 2 responses. Either you're going to get, well, yes, I am, but I have a couple of questions, and that's okay. Or you're going to get an objection, or possibly even an excuse. And it's important to understand that objections and excuses are not terrible things. Friends, if I can be honest, I'm skeptical. When I take a look at things, I really want to understand what it is before I get involved. And that's for the large majority of people on the planet. So when people ask questions, it's not that they're trying to be funny, but it's that they're looking either for more clarity, which we need to provide them when they've got the objection, or they're looking for a way where they might not feel that they can do this. And in that, you've got to help them with the excuses. So 2 ways to take a look at it. You might get the objection, well, Kirsten, I saw a documentary on that streaming platform, and they spoke about how, fish are running out in the ocean. What are we going to do if we're building a big business based on fish? Well, you've got to be able to work through that and be able to deal with the objection. That's a valid objection. Somebody has some knowledge, they're trying to work through it, and they're trying to understand how what they know fits into what you're sharing with them. And so you've got to be able to give a good response to an objection. Now, an excuse of, well, I don't have time, or I'm too busy, now that's a way to kind of test the waters of, what is your mettle in terms of helping people get started? So the processing in dealing with excuses for me is a little bit different. Now, what I like to do is I like to not run over the excuse that the person has, which, unfortunately has been taught in the industry. I like to deal with it like this. If somebody says, well, I don't have a lot of time, say, well, I 100% understand that, Mary. We've got a lot of people that have joined with us to partner in building their dreams, their visions, their hopes, their goals with Enzino, that also were worried about how much time they had to be able to put into it. Now, I understand where you're coming from, but what I can show you is really example after example after example of people who have succeeded, even though they had very limited time. Because one thing I do know is if you take somebody who's busy and you give them something that is truly of value, they'll find the time to make it work. So in the process here, conquering the close simply means you have to close. You have to get to the point where you're asking the question, are you ready to get started? And then dealing with the objections and the excuses. And don't be afraid if you can't answer one of the objections. If you are brand new and you don't know the answer, that's when you say, let's set up a three-way call and I'll get you on with my upline, my support, who will be able to help you through some of those questions that you may still have. Now, if you have identified what it is that they're looking for, and you've gotten yourself to a point where you've actually got to the process of asking, are you ready to get started? You've conquered the close just by doing the close. You'll set yourself up to create the environment for somebody to make the decision to move forward with you. So now here is the secret sauce. If you wanted to know what the key is to the decision meeting, it's not actually the objections or the excuses, or it's you. It's your confidence, it's your belief in the ability of your movement and success in Enzino that will be either something that people are attracted to or something that people are repulsed from. Now, those are two big words, right? Attraction and repulsion. We can all think of things we're attracted to, but we can also think about things that we're repulsed by. And a lot of these things happen without what our outer workings put out there. It's not just the expression of our faces or the words that we say, it's what we really think. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase before, but thoughts are things. I often teach people that it's more important to make sure that your mental strategy going into these meetings is better than your physical strategy, because people get a sense for whether they want to work with you based on whether they can figure out if you're somebody who's going to get them where they want to go. Now, we spoke about in point number one, somebody having this starting point of their why, their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, their reason for engaging with Enzino. The connection that they have to make for most people is not the connection to Enzino, because this is a very linear opportunity with a remarkable upside to it. But they're trying to figure out if you're the intermediary between Enzino and them that can help get them to where they want to go. Now, that confidence, that decision-making, all those processes, a lot of it happens internally, but you have to be the person that comes across with the confidence, with the belief, with the hope, and lead that person into what they've always wanted. That's essentially what we do. So the secret sauce here is that you truly believe that you're on a journey that you're going to get to the destination you've set out for. I always say to people, it's so important that you cast vision, not only for the company, but for yourself and for the person you're sitting down with. When I'm sitting with a prospect, I want to share where the company's going. We've got the big vision of what we're going to do next year in Enzino sit up in front of us, right? We talk about this. We're explaining what we're going to do. I share my role and what my goals and ambitions are in that process. And then what I love to do is to grab a hold of their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, their why, and tag that into the vision casting of where the company's going, where I'm going, and how I can help them get to where they want to go to. You see, friends, the decision is one simple thing. Do I want to do this? That's the tick that the prospect has to make. Now, we need to fill in all the gaps. It's the company, it's the technology, it's the compensation plan, it's the team support. It's all these things that come into play. But you're the key central figure that the person will be identifying. Is this the person that's going to take me where I always have wanted to go? If the answer is yes, your chances of getting a positive result in that decision meeting will be remarkably increased. So work on yourself, focus on your belief, your ideas, your thoughts going into that meeting, and you see your results will change. So we want to make sure we've got the why. We want to make desperately sure that we're working people through the process of understanding what it is that they're agreeing to, because we've got to give them the option to say yes, or I need some more answers. So we're going to conquer the close. And number 3, make sure that you are the person that is projecting, that you can take them into the things that they've always wanted to have. So there is some very important thoughts on the decision meeting. Go out there and make it happen.